We're at.
So I think we're going. What's up, Science of Mind magazine? Reverend Masando here, back with Jafan and Amanda as always. And we have some special guests for our Elevate Melanated Voices time we're going to be spending with you today. We have Brother Lucian Baker back with us, who was with us, I think, last month, a couple months ago. Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson is here with us from CSL Greater Baltimore, and Reverend Amani Malaika from Center for Spiritual Living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We are so happy. I think we're happy to be together and happy to be joined by all of you. Please engage with us in the chat. So we've asked Lucian to pray us in, and after that, we'll get started.
All right. As we breathe in and let out, continuing and remembering in the perfect consciousness of God, I, Lucian Baker, speak my word for everyone in this chat and everyone observing and everyone involved, knowing all is well and all is perfect. I bless this moment, knowing that we gathered in love, in oneness, and it all flows perfectly and abundantly. I release and I give thanks, and so it is.
So it is.
So it is.
Thank you so much. So I'm just going to do a couple quick intros, really quick. Reverend Dr. Raymond, he's actually been really engaged with a lot of these next gen conversations. He may not technically fall into the next gen category by age, but a lot of us aren't technically there anymore. I'm approaching middle age, y'all. And so, but he's been engaged with us. He was an important piece in the formation of this month's theme in the Science of Mind magazine of Unchained Spirituality. He was a part of the team that helped to create all of the themes that are happening both with the magazine and with our centers around the country and around the world. He is someone who I love, respect, and admire. I love all of the posters that he has in his background and his embrace of the full-on geekery that is available to all of us, should we so choose it. And just an amazing leader in our movement. So happy to have him with us. Reverend Amani Malaika has also joined us kind of last minute. And she's a good friend of mine as well. We actually served at Center for Spiritual Living in Albuquerque together. And she is now the senior minister of that center that continues to grow and thrive. She is someone who has taught me a lot about the spiritual path and how to be so deeply present to it in all of the ways that it shows up. And yeah, just a badass in so many different ways. So excited to have her join us. And Lucian is again back here with us. I think he's getting back connected through his phone. And he is from Oakland and East Bay Center. He was one of the youngest practitioners. He became a practitioner at one of the youngest ages in our movement. So I think he's on the path to becoming a minister as well. So really excited for that. So because it's been so long, I think it's been a couple months since we've done one of these lives. We thought we would just do a quick check-in on, what we've been up to, what's going on in our lives since the last time we met. So Jafan, why don't we start with you and then we'll just go around.
All right. Well, hello everybody. It's so incredible to look onto this screen and see some new faces, some familiar faces, but every time we have this opportunity to interact with each other, it's truly a sacred thing. So I'm very appreciative for that. I know that there's been a lot going on, at least in my world. We're seeing things with regards to COVID and Corona. I'm here in California, a continued lockdown. We're seeing it disproportionately impact communities of color. We're seeing the way my wife is a doctor, so really seeing behind the scenes of how all of that is taking place, which has been eye-opening and at times a big reminder that storing up our perceived wealth in these things, these little cards that we swipe for transactions, doesn't necessarily carry everything that we may think that it does. There's something great that we can tap into within ourselves, and then couple that with a lot of the racial tension or just conversation or apparent racial inequities that are at the forefront of many people's minds. That has opened the doorway to work with a variety of organizations in terms of diversity and inclusion, as well as just continue conversations with individuals who were maybe hesitant at one time, but now they're willing to step forward and avoid that ever so present spiritual bypass that people often do when difficult conversations emerge. So all in all, I'm grateful to be here. Again, thank you all for being a part of this. And yeah, I'm looking forward to today. So with that being said, I will pass it. My screen is different than all of yours, so I will throw it up in the air, and whoever unmutes themselves will be the one to proceed forward. It's up there. Don't let it hit the ground.
Well,
it's you, Lucian. There you go.
Yeah, it felt right. Y'all can hear me, right? Okay, good. What I've been up to is definitely keeping in contact with Reverend Masando and getting ready for ministerial school, as he said. Also watching my kids grow and have an opinion and and say a lot of the smart things I used to say when I was their age. That's pretty much it. I'm always a dad first, but I've really been enjoying a lot of the opportunities I've had to speak lately through CSL. They've been giving me a lot of opportunities to speak, and it's been really fun just enjoying spreading this philosophy that I've grown up in and just really being a part of it.
Well, when you crush it at a national convention and you give a talk that is by far one of my favorite talks at the whole event, you're gonna get some interest. So yeah, I guess I'm talking already, so I'll just hop in. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the whole world has continued to change since the last time we really met. I'm happy for the ways in which so many things are getting to be revealed, right? And as they're revealed, both the pain of that, but also sort of like the what now, what next, and sort of the impulse or demand of creativity that kind of comes with those moments of, like, well, now what? So have been, really engaged locally here with some community organizing and things that are going on in the social justice world, but also really proud of my home church of Mile High Church and some organizational work that we're doing. We've hired a consultant to come in with us and to really explore race, identity, whiteness, supremacy, really get those basic theory in with all of our ministers and our marketing team and our music team, everyone that's really having an impact, and then sort of ending that with our organizational culture and finding ways how to create a more inclusive environment, as well as looking at our policies and everything that really makes up the church and how we can continue to look at those and continue to evolve with those. So it's great to be, you know, sort of like find the places where where we can have impact, and to really dive into those areas, knowing we don't have to do it all, but knowing like sort of where our spheres of influence are, and throwing our heart and souls into that. So that's really what I've been up to, as well as just, you know, spending time at home with my wife and our dog. So I think I'll pass it to Reverend Amani.
Thank you, Masando. Oh my God, so this has been just, oh gosh, you guys, if you don't know me, I have a really bad potty mouth, so I'm just gonna work on it. It has been a wild time, right? And I've just been spending a lot of time sort of dancing between grief and loss and excitement about what's now becoming possible, and sort of, you know, riding that line and doing that for myself personally, for my family, for my kid, and other kids that I help care for. And then also for, you know, the Albuquerque Center for Spiritual Living community, and what does that mean as a leader in a community, how to hold the tenderness, you know, in this time, and keep people grounded in what is possible. And so that's really where I've been spending a lot of my time, which means that, you know, I've doubled my Sabbath practice. I now Sabbath 2 days a week in order to be able to do that, and really stay close to my own practice so that I can be who I want to be in the world. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Let's hear from Amanda.
Actually, I'm going to tap Raymond real quick, and then I want to hear from Raymond. Hi.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, so before I go anywhere, Lucian, I need to talk to you about possibly speaking at my center in August, because Masando's not available. So, well, okay, so what's going on with me? Sitting in the fire of alchemy right now with everything that's going on. Literally, my mother transitioned on Father's Day. There's this pandemic thing y'all might have heard about. Then there's how to not survive with the center and what's going on, but how do we step into thriving? And what I've come to this realization that in the old me, way back me, would have never taken care of himself in the midst of all of this. So how do I, number one, focus on keeping my cup full? No matter what's going on. So my family betrayed me. How do I keep my cup full? My mother just died. How do I keep my cup full? The center, they're upset about not being cup full, because I can't give anybody anything to drink from a cup that's not like, so how do I take care of me? And making sure that in the midst of this, because it's also not familiar for me to ask for help. So I've been chronicling this entire journey of grief and mourning and frustration and anger and fear and all this stuff with videos and posts on Facebook, just to say, look, I know y'all been praying for me and sending Reiki and dipping crystals in iced tea or whatever y'all been doing, but whatever you're doing, keep it going, because I'm open and willing to whatever your form of support for me is. You know, I'm reaching out to the grandkids saying, look, what y'all doing? Y'all want Pop Ray to hula hoop? Okay, fine. It's lifting the consciousness, it's having fun, then it's what I need to do. So right now, the main thing for me is be present to what you feel right now. Okay, it just changed. Be present to that. Now move through it. Present to that. Now move through it, but focus on self-care. That's where I've been.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think I've been very deeply in a practice of self-care since April, to echo what you're saying. So I, you know, living in a large city that I've never really experienced living in a city. So tried doing that right out of the gate during pandemic. Has been a bit of an education about like what it means to be this close to so many humans and all of the beauty that's possible in that. And, you know, how the fear sort of can multiply also out of that, and to be really willing to be present to that, and to be present to the shifting consciousness around everything right now. So not just around our personal health, but also around race and justice. and what it really means, first of all, for me to have been given the opportunity to hold space for myself and to do some really deep healing work, right? This has been a really good opportunity to pull myself out of all of the things that I've been doing for so long out of habit, and because that's what you do, you sink or swim and you just keep swimming, and to have the opportunity to just sort of tread water and really assess what's going on, the pool that I am and who I am and how I want to really swim and really thrive in that pool has been a huge gift. And then to be able to be present and hold space, not just with communities, but with the world, as we are shifting so much about how we are living our lives right now. And to be really present with that experiences, right? Because it is trauma, it's grief, it's beauty, it's an invitation to show up in all of these new ways. And I think that it's a great opportunity for all of us to be figuring out who we are in that, and where and how we want to thrive and how we want to swim, and really how we bring our gifts into this in a way that serves us first and the world. And we've all kind of been given this opportunity. I so do this all the time. My Enneagram 7, like sun shining. This is our opportunity. But Amani's laughing at me. Pardon. I will try not to go straight at the Amani laughing at me. But I think it's it is that time for all of us. And it has been hard. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that from April to now to landing in this place has been rainbows, right? It's not. The National Guard's been in my neighborhood. The world is still happening outside of these four walls. And I have a really great opportunity to be present with it, and to be present with myself in a way that I'm not sure I ever would have had otherwise. And it's such a huge gift to really just understand how life impacts us in these ways, because we have these opportunities to pull ourselves out and sit still and be with everything that's happening outside of our four walls in a really present way. And I'm really grateful for that. I have absolutely no idea what it looks like on the other side of this. I have absolutely no idea what it looks like for me when we come back in 3 weeks or a month to have another conversation with this group. But I'm grateful for it. So yeah. And so I guess I'm supposed to sort of introduce how we've come to this. And I think the preceding moments leading up to March and to April for me were filled with a lot of just got to get through the next thing, just got to honor the fact that I am this voice in the room who might not sound like the other voices, just got to keep hanging on with everything that I have in order to honor the fact that we say we want to be diverse and inclusive in all sorts of ways. So I walk a lot of intersections in the world. I'm Latinx, I'm differently abled, I am openly polyamorous, I work to openly serve people in love and relationship of all sorts. And that means that I also honor people who are doing love and relationship in different ways, not just polyamorous or non-monogamous, but people who participate in kink community and not in the queer communities and all across. And really wanting to navigate those intersections with the understanding that all the ways that we choose to do life are beautiful, and honoring all of the differences is what makes that essential. And so I think it's just amazing that we're all given the opportunity to really go back to almost basic level and figure out what that means to honor these differences now, especially when we're having conversations about race and inclusivity. So, and I'm going to stop talking there. Now, I know all of y'all have brilliant things to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question that's coming up is, what is striking you about this time that we're living in, and how has it been to be a global majority member or a person of color, and what has been that experience for you of walking through this time? What are the things that you're really learning? What are the insights that you're having? What are the things that you feel like you really want to share with people right now that have, really touched you, impacted you, revelations that have really come about this time? I'd love to hear about some of that.
Yeah, I'll share a few quick things and then I'll pass it along. You know, I've been having the opportunity to work with organizations and speak in CSLs and a variety of things around not just diversity and inclusion, but a sense of empowerment. It's really made me come to this continuous realization about this concept of human equality. It's even deeper than what I would say equity, though equitable opportunity is important. But is there a place that I can get to, being raised biracial in Salt Lake City, Utah, looking around the community, nobody looked like me, and recognizing all of these many layers that I built my inner world with, that tended to miss the mark, so to say, that captured the sense of inherent worthlessness. And I was trying to be a chameleon or assimilate into what I thought was success. And I learned that going through school. I learned that in college. I've learned that as I've continued to expand my business. And how can I begin to take these steps necessary to recognize, to reclaim my inherent equality, recognizing simply by virtue of being here, of being a spark of the infinite, that I'm filled with that potential, that love, that light, that endless energy, so to say. And how can I begin to peel back those layers, doing so within my own life, and then bringing it forth to other individuals, not to do that work for them, but to remind them to look inward and recognize that beauty that they can always tap into and capture. And I say all of that because it aligns with this idea of CSL and New Thought with regards to, you know, we're all part of the one. But I've also recognized, by being completely realistic and looking at the reality, that when we are walking in this physical world, it is not necessarily one equal playing field. There are many layers of inequity that is everywhere, by way of policy, by way of, we know, we can look and see and recognize it. We look at the top members of corporations or of Congress, we recognize that they all look like one, not one, but a similar look, for lack of better words. And there's a deep level of supremacy that is there. And it's not saying everybody's marching around, you know, waving Nazi flags or anything of that sort, but it's so deeply ingrained that it's as invisible as the air that we're breathing. And so beginning to bring some awareness to that towards others by way of doing my work that nobody else can do is a beautiful path and a bridge that can take us towards inclusion, equity, and most important from my perspective, equality. So, and as Amanda said, I've said a lot there, so I will stop for a moment, or else I will take up the rest of this time.
Now, tag team, Jafon?
Please, please.
So one thing, so people have, you know, talking to me about this whole, you know, what does it mean, racism, white supremacy, white privilege, et cetera. And like you said, not everyone's carrying a tiki torch or Nazi flag, et cetera, right? So what I've been proposing to people is, you watch television, you watch movies, okay, name 5 television shows or movies with a predominantly cast of color that is not based in slavery times, so Harriet's out. It's not based on civil rights, so Martin Luther King's story, out. It's not a comedy. And it's not the stereotypical gang affiliate. Where's the just drama? Where's the just love story? Where's the just, were it not for Get Out and whatnot, we wouldn't even have horror. But like 5, can you name 5? And people are like, well, no. Okay, well, why not? When you look at television and what you see is someone else predominantly represented, what is the subliminal message that I see when I don't see me represented? Or the only representation I see of me is, oh, gangbanger, comedian, okay, civil rights, okay, well, where am I? And then you add the layer on, like Amanda said, okay, add on queer, so, because I got those intersections too. So it's like, okay, so where, okay, so if it's not the stereotypical flamboyant drag queen, what, okay, so, oh man. So this time has been affording me the opportunity to say, 1, do we understand that we just witnessed a man get murdered on film, phone, video? We watched this man, I didn't watch it, I couldn't watch it, I couldn't be overly traumatized yet again. But it's, okay, how many hashtags have we had since Rodney King? Rodney King wasn't a hashtag because we didn't have him back then, but how many hashtags have we? Tamir Rice was 12 years old, so age doesn't matter, gender doesn't matter, because Breonna Taylor, like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter if your hands are up, if you're on your knees, if you're running, if you're standing, if you're it doesn't matter to the badge, to the majority of what this country is founded on. I've been telling folks, like, keep in mind that the soil is still wet with the blood of the indigenous Americans. Everything about how this country was created on steal it, kill it, take it. From the get-go, from the, oh, happy Thanksgiving, like from the get-go. So what we're doing now is we're seeing the evidence of what many of us have already known. So like one of the things I guess we're going to talk about later is this idea of unchained spirituality. Okay, so we're right in the midst of it, especially here in New Thought. What does it mean to unpack all of this old consciousness, paradigms, belief systems? So right here, pandemic is giving us, it's the year 2020. And are we not being given the opportunity to clarify our vision as a nation and as a planet? Because this isn't just an American thing, a United States of American thing. It's a global thing. When you've got people in New Zealand doing the haka for George Floyd, it's a global thing. So like right now is the time to have these conversations with everybody, especially that uncle that, you know, every Thanksgiving, every birthday, uncle somebody comes in and he's got that comment, that joke, that you need to call him out on it. Like now is the time.
Yeah, I want to jump in there.
I do. Thank you guys. You know, I'm listening and it's like, now is the time. And I have to be honest, real talk is that pisses me off. Is because I literally found myself this spring, you know, juggling a global pandemic, you know, juggling how to school my children from home and how to lead a community through this kind of change and disruption. And now y'all want to talk about white supremacy? Really? Now is the time? We're going to just also put this on, you ready now? Oh, you're ready now. There's a part of me that was like, these bitches, you know, I was pissed. And, you know, there's a part of me as a spiritual leader was like, who leads a majority white community. I was like, no, I don't have it in me. I can't right now. I don't have it in me to also walk you through the awakening to white supremacy that many of you are now awakening to and are in all your feelings about. And I had to dig deep to find a way to hold space for that. You know, and I'm so grateful to be surrounded by incredible leadership within my community who literally, you know, I have Jane Midgley is a ministerial intern finishing up ministerial school, and this is her jam. And she was like, Amani, I got the white folks. And I was like, thank you, Jane. I don't got it. And so I wonder how we, you know, coming back to that concept of self-care as folks of color, because we've been at the party, right? This is not a new party. Some folks are just arriving and finding that place of compassion in myself for all those folks who are awakening with broken hearts and devastation and despair as they arrive to a reality that most of us have already been living in. How do we gather up the compassion needed to serve those folks? And for me, one of the big questions has been, what is mine to do in this? And what isn't mine to do? So that's what
I think that's what I kept hearing is that we so often talk about what is ours to do in this. And I think that for so many of us, especially the six faces that I'm seeing on the call, it hasn't been just during pandemic where we've been called into the room to have these conversations and to sort of be this voice, because we are the only ones who can be that voice in the room. So what does that mean? Like, what is it actually is ours to do, especially when we are leaders in or speakers at predominantly white community, when we are occupying spaces, doing our spiritual work that are predominantly occupied by white people and white people who want to be allies, but who are still sort of just waking up and being present to these conversations, and then want to come to us to have these conversations. And is it ours to do to have that conversation with every person? Is that really what we've decided that has to happen? The one person of color who's in the room, the one person who's of difference, is it our responsibility? And what is your responsibility as a person who wants to be an ally, who is a non-Black person of color, who is a white person? What is yours to do in this moment? Is it yours to first come to me or Amani or Raymond or any of us on this call and say, help me? Or is it yours to do some research and to do some education and to learn about this on your end, and to really understand how important it is for those of us, the handful of us that walk into the room looking the way that we do, to be really honored for our differences? Because I would put that one right at the front of the line, right? Like, there is no more, I don't see color, I don't see race, we are one, there are no differences. That conversation is spiritual bypass. It doesn't get to keep happening. It certainly doesn't get to keep happening in spiritual community where we say we're really engaged in doing our work, because these are the moments where we really recognize, if we're going to recognize the gifts that each person walks into our community spaces with, those gifts come from our culture, they come from our background, they come from the intersections that we are occupying, and those are not exactly the same as yours. And saying that they are doesn't make it so. Just saying it, right? Your willingness to hear and to be present with us as we learn about our intersections, as we do our spiritual work, that's the work to do.
What I'm really feeling, thank you for that, by the way. At first, I was feeling like our biggest issue, our biggest so-called enemy in the situation is race, is racism. But what I'm realizing is that it's comfort. I feel it's comfort. I feel like we have those who are comfortable knowing there's an injustice, but because they receive privileges from it, they're willing to be quiet. I feel like there's others who have experienced this abuse for so long, it's just second nature to just take it and keep going. I think a lot of it is comfort. To have an experience from a person and to decide that anyone who looks like that person or is from the background of that person is that way is a comfortable way of handling it. Instead of treating that person as an individual, and let's just be honest, there's butt heads in all groups of people, but to decide that that one person now represents every group of people as a butthead, that's not fair. And we can all say that, but I think it's safe to say we've all done that before too. You know, you get a broken heart and you go, oh, I'm through with women, just women are trouble. Okay, well, that's a comfortable way of handling it. What if you took some responsibility for experience? Maybe your own energy attracted that experience. We don't want to go there. We don't want to maybe look within and say, maybe it's my perception of the situation that gave me that experience. And that's where I think everyone gets to own up to it, not just the so-called victims and not just the ones who are out here spreading the hate, but I think all of us get to look within and deal with the fact that what we're looking at is comfort here. Hate is an easy way out. Hate is the comfortable person's way of dealing with stuff. Is instead of looking at my own responsibility, I'll just say that all these people are a certain way. That way I don't have to be responsible for what happened.
Yeah, man, I'm loving this conversation so much. Yeah, it's been interesting to be an Asian person walking through all this. I've actually have been surrounding myself with some other Asian folks that are doing social justice work. And it's really amazing to, gosh, just look at the complexities of identity. But a theme that I've noticed, right, within myself and a little bit within the Asian community itself, and I don't know exactly what it's about yet, like it's still unraveling, was like this need in me to assimilate, right? And how that began at a very young age, right? Like so much of my memories have been about like wanting to fit in and wanting to make sure like I did everything to do that, like everything that I could do to pass as white, right? And whatever that means, whatever that, you know, or whatever like culture that's being outpictured that I'm, you know, that I'm a part of at any moment. And I think something that has been shifting for me is like both the recognition of how that's continued in some interesting ways in many different spaces, but also like how there's less of a willingness, maybe with that understanding, to do that. Like, I think there's something within me that has noticed like, oh, wow, I just try to be a diplomat all the time. Like, I'm just trying to make sure that everybody's okay. And I'm just, like, and I got fire in me, right? And like, it could definitely come out, but I revert to, right? Especially in a space where I don't feel fully safe or like fully fully at the table, that I kind of revert to this, okay, I'm just going to say this in the nicest way possible. I'm going to plant some seeds. I'm just going to do these little things, right? And just do everything I can to not rock the boat. And I've noticed that there's in me just a less of a willingness to do that, right? And that to me has been something that's really, I think, also a part of what it means to be anti-racist, right? Is recognizing the internalized racism and oppression that has created the need to do that and the ways that it has become internalized in me, and then choosing something new, right? It doesn't mean like I have to just like blow up everything all the time, but it's just like noticing how like my need to do that, right? And my need to free myself from that, from that feeling of like I need to fit in and not rock boats, right? And that's part of, I feel like, my role as a non-Black person of color right now. So I think that's like might be an interesting segue to talk about this month's theme, of which Raymond was a huge piece, right? So Raymond and I were part of a global themes team that was working to create all of the themes alongside of the Science of Mind magazine that also all of our centers for spiritual living are utilizing in their weekly talks. And we all kind of like, after we did some work together, some visioning together, we all, split up the months to take on that particular theme. And this month was assigned to Raymond. So I'd love to, this guy, so I'd love to have him maybe speak a little bit more about the theme and where it came from, and maybe help spark a conversation around this month's theme.
Cool, thank you. So because it was July, the major holiday in July for the United States of America is the 4th of July, and 4th of July is Independence Day, yay team. So we were like, okay, so spiritually, like, what does that even mean? What is it? Okay, so independence, well, independence from, okay, so freedom. So, oh, well, let's, So specifically for me, growing up Christian, fundamental Christian, about as fundamental Christian as one could get, was this idea of, you can't do this, you can't drink that, you can't eat this, you can't go there, you can't hang out with them, you can't, never do, and don't. I was like, what can I do? Like, the sinners have all the fun. Like, it was like, well, what can you do? So having this spiritual practice, this religious path that was about denying everything about who you are. You are a sinner saved by grace. This dude had to die for you to even be remotely considered worthy of eternal life. What kind of God? What? So just thinking about, okay, so one of the things we said in the pre-filming thing, Jafon mentioned like unchained in one's consciousness and paradigms. So like consciously in my mind, in my beliefs, what belief system do I have? Do I have limiting thoughts that are actually holding me back, holding me down? Do I have limiting thoughts about somebody else? Well, you know how those women are. Like Lucian said, you get in a relationship and it's like, oh, I'm done. Okay, well, that limiting belief of that relationship has now enslaved you to this new way of showing up in the world. Okay, so now we have this teaching, new thought, where you can go to 15 different unities and 15 different CSLs, and none of them are the same. Like, if you blindfolded and walked in, like, name what kind of church you're in right now. I honestly don't know. So like where you have the freedom to express this teaching, new thought, however you want. Okay, cool. But when we come down to the practical application of it, so like week 1, free at last, then none are free until we're all free. The truth will set you free. And then this coming Sunday, the Tao of freedom. So what does it mean in our teaching to literally embody freedom? Not just to have freedom, but to go deeper when you recognize, okay, what can bind or enslave God? So if what the essence of what we are is God, then how do I outpicture that with each of these? So free at last, what does that mean? What am I free from? What do I need to release? What do I need to not just release, but sit in and really unpack to move through? Because we want to just jump past stuff and be like, boom, the Course in Miracles says that it's all love and freedom and fear. And really, I hear you, but really, so how do we get through and recognize that if I'm going to say that I'm free, but I recognize that there are children right now sitting in detention centers simply because they're Latinx, and I'm going to go about my business like nothing's wrong. I understand that there are trans women of color disappearing and being murdered every day, and indigenous women being just okay. But I'm free, yay. But as long as I'm free, and as long as we free, we good. No, that's not responsible, and that's not what this path calls us to radical, active, treat and move your feet. Treat and move your feet. We take that second part off and we're like, we just gonna all pray. We're gonna pray. We understand, and when we anchor in consciousness, God is all there is. God is love. Good. God is good. Good. Amen. Let's eat. And then we go about our business and act like everything's fine. No, there are people still disappearing, dying, and being murdered daily simply because of the color of their skin or because of who they love or how they love. And you just want to pray and have a drum circle and kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya, and think everything's fine. It doesn't work that way. Real quick before I pass it. So Amanda, you mentioned this whole, I don't see color. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. I don't see color. And I've been asking folks, so name what's in your spice cabinet. Oh, I got some paprika and I got some cumin and I got some, I got some curry and I got, oh, but you don't taste flavor, do you? It's like, oh, or what's your favorite ice cream? Breyers, Rocky Road. No. I want you to do the giant version. Oh, no. But no, if you're going to not see color, then don't taste flavor either. Because all flavor, all ice cream is ice cream. All spice is spice. So just use the one. Well, no, then my food's going to be nasty. Well, if you don't see color and you don't understand the diversity of how we show up, then you're living a bland, tasteless life as well. And then lastly, there's this idea, we sing, wade in the water, right? Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's going to trouble. Doesn't say anything about God's going to make the water still and placid and calm. God's going to trouble, move the waters. And it is in the troubling of the waters that when you wade in it, that you are healed. It's time for us to trouble the waters.
Yeah, thank you. I think that when we teach people pray first, right? Like that's the go, like if you're what's going on, pray first. I think that somewhere that has equated to prayer makes me comfortable, right? I am going to pray in this moment that I don't have to be this uncomfortable. And for so many of us who have been occupying space where we are just asked to be uncomfortable all the time for the sake of everyone else in the room, I think that it is at this point, this is the moment where everyone else in the room gets to understand how uncomfortable this conversation really is. That prayer isn't here to soothe us, that spirituality isn't here to take away the discomfort. It's here to guide us through when we're uncomfortable. And it's not just the responsibility for the 6 of us in this room to be the uncomfortable ones with every other room that we walk into. It is everyone's responsibility to understand that being uncomfortable is part of the work. and that prayer isn't the solvent and the solution to being uncomfortable. Prayer is what helps us work through that discomfort so that everyone can start to feel comfortable, not just a select few. That's my thought on that.
Amen. Amen. I have so many thoughts. I actually teach Pray First, but and I do that for the very reasons Raymond just said, which is we must be willing to be uncomfortable. Comfort was never promised to anybody at any time in any religion from the beginning of time. It has never been about comfort. We pray so that we can be present in all that is uncomfortable, so that we can walk into a moment mindful and aware of all the colors, of all the flavors, right? It is so that we can be there for it. When we don't choose to get conscious and present with ourselves, we will miss life itself. We will miss the beauty of all the colors. We will miss the phenomenalness of how good life tastes when we're present for it. So it is not praying to make it go away for the love of all things holy. We're not trying to make anything go away. We're actually trying to bring it more forward, right? We want to embrace the conflict. We want to bring forward the difficult conversations so that you and I can be here together more connected, right? It makes me bananas in spiritual community when we think we came together in order to make it all okay, right? In order to smooth the waters. That is not at all what we're doing here together. I want you to be able to know who I am. And I want to know who you are in your totality, right? We teach wholeness, which means wholeness has to include the whole kit and caboodle, the ugly, the cute, the not so cute, all of that. And that's what spirituality to me is about. And we do our movement a disservice. We do the people we serve a disservice when we don't say what's true. When we play small in meetings and walk into rooms and don't call shit out, we do a disservice. As a spiritual leader, which we all are on this call, we must be willing to say the hard things and be uncomfortable in a new way, because we've been uncomfortable all along. So why not be uncomfortable with our mouths open?
Can I add something real quick?
Please.
So, like whether we're going to acknowledge Jesus was a literal person, again, I really don't care. Metaphorical, allegorical, doesn't matter. I keep saying, look, Jesus got whipped, like for real, for real. If prayer was the thing, then Jesus would be like, in the name of me, I now call upon, but Jesus got whipped. Jesus felt pain. He felt alone. He went off and was like, I don't understand, dudes. How many times do I have to be with you that you, I just need to go meditate. Like he felt it. Buddha felt it. Every single spiritual person that we hold in such esteem felt exactly what you just mentioned. They felt the discomfort. And somehow we've got the idea that, well, we don't have to, but there are spiritual role models. And if they embraced it and enveloped it and moved through it and transcended it and transformed and transmogrified through it, then why the hell shouldn't we?
So, I mean, y'all are bringing it right now, and I've just really been enjoying listening. But just in that talk about comfort, I'm realizing that I have been comfortable trying to fit into this idea of the non-threatening Black guy my entire life. Literally, my entire life. Since 7, whenever I went to a new school, went to a new camp, I had to make sure I talked really proper, had to make sure my jeans were all the way up into my Adam's apple, pretty much. I had to do all these things. And okay, make sure you don't talk about gangster rap and only talk about, the Beatles and alternative music. And I actually really do like those things. But by the time I've done all that, I'm not even me anymore. And I've gotten comfortable doing that. There's a thing where, listen, I want to have 360 waves all around my head. I want to do that. In order to do that, I have to wear my do-rag regularly. But in this society, me wearing that outside might not result in something positive for me. So when I wear my do-rag, I got to make sure it's really just snug under that Ralph Lauren hat of mine. I got to do that. And what I'm saying is that the world does not benefit when we decide to compromise ourselves. Someone needs to see our light. We have to be willing to do that. But guess what? We also have to be willing to accept the light of others as well. So just because someone else's style may be something that we're not partial to, we have to be willing to see past that. That person breathes the same oxygen as you do. I remember looking on Facebook and seeing a picture of a white father and his daughter. And obviously she was deaf because she had that type of hearing aid that connects to your head and, you know, that kind of hearing aid there. And to show his support for his daughter, he shaved his head and got a tattoo of the same hearing aid. And I'm looking at that like, that is beautiful, but I can't do it. I can't do that. I cannot do that. I have children I need to feed. I don't get to do that. I don't. We can be as science of mind if we want to about that. I don't get to do that. And that's something we have to look at right there. I was watching the Thanksgiving Day parade, the Macy's thing they do every year. And I'm watching it with my wife and we're just trying to enjoy it. And I was having a hard time enjoying it because once it got to the country music part, every single country singer was dressed like a 90s drug dealer. Every single one. I saw the beanie, I saw the, and I'm like, it's okay now? Now it's okay to dress like that? You know how many times I got harassed by the police dressing like that right there? But 10 years later, when we put it down and they pick it up, now it's okay. I remember seeing signs in downtown San Francisco that said no breakdancing when I was a little boy. I saw signs that said no breakdancing, just like you see the ones that say no skateboarding. But when you think of breakdancing, you don't think of Black and Latino kids. So it's okay to breakdance now. Now it's expressing yourself. Back then, you were a thug. And so that's something we need to look at. As much as, you know, people love to say, oh, that's so ghetto, that means you should appreciate it then. Because where would this world be if it didn't have the ghetto to suck resources out of in the first place? We know why Justin Timberlake and Justin Bieber's music sells. They sound like me. I mean, I don't sing as good as them, but I mean, the swag, we know who they study. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Just like if I want to ball out, I got to study Warren Buffett. What I'm saying is let's appreciate everyone's light. Let's not say it's just ghetto when you see me doing it. That's all I'm saying. Let's appreciate everyone's light and let's stop being so comfortable putting people in categories.
Yeah, those are such powerful points. I'm just sitting over here like, okay, yeah, this is such an encouraging conversation. And I want to kind of circle with what you said, Lucian, with regards to not being authentic and learning how to maneuver in the world. And I just had a conversation yesterday with the CSL community in Palm Desert around this idea. When you think of what it takes or who is successful in America, what is the immediate image that comes to the forefront of your mind? And to everybody, it was a white man. And therefore, I'm saying, okay, so to be successful, and that was my upbringing. I looked at my friends who were white, and I noticed like, okay, how can I maneuver like that so I can get there? Because I see my father, I see what my mom is doing, and we're missing the mark. So how can I begin to assimilate and put into practice what I think that they're doing, not fully taking into account that when I walk in somewhere, people will there's these unconscious perceptions that exist that at times create barriers that prevent me from moving forward. So I want to first touch on that is powerful. And with regards to resolving those unconscious perceptions, the power, as you mentioned, Lucian, with regards to authentically interacting with other human beings who are different than you. And in doing so, you begin to invalidate those unconscious perceptions that have no basis in experiential reality. So the moment that I befriended in Seattle in college, friends who were Muslim, when I didn't have any idea about the Islam religion, the Muslim religion, that interaction authentically, accepting them, respecting them, building this sense of personal and then professional and then personal trust, it began to invalidate all those unconscious perceptions that I piled in my mind, often unconsciously based on how I was brought up. And then the final point that I'll say, and then I'll pass it to Masando, because I know we could go for like 4 hours, but I know we got 60 minutes here. The final one is this idea is if we are looking out at the world and we're seeing the effects, the effects that we're seeing, inequity, we're seeing an uneven playing field, we're seeing various communities that we know are predominantly people of color, and they do not have the same resources as an area that may not be like that. If we are continuously seeing these effects, racial injustice, all of these type of things, I feel that our teaching, New Thought in general, encourages us to go back to the cause of those effects, recognizing that just because you may not necessarily say that I'm out here doing these type of things that are upholding racist policies, the act of doing nothing or thinking that you're neutral is reinforcing the status quo, which means there is no neutrality. So we're either going and instituting, empowering anti-racist ideas, policies that create racial equity and equality, or by way of just simply sitting back and saying, I'm going to treat it away. That is an act of neutrality because your feet are not moving towards that new creation. And in doing so, you are reinforcing that which is currently existing, which means you are causing the same effect. So perhaps that level of responsibility that we all have encourages us to go within and recognize, as co-creators of this world, of our individual realities, that we cannot look away because we have a role to play. So
I know, I honestly don't want to stop. I just want to keep listening to you all and interacting. I have so much love for everybody on this call. But we do have to bring it to a close. I really appreciate everybody that's tuning in. Do this exercise with spiritual leaders and with spiritual communities that I ask them to write down like their 5 greatest spiritual teachers, right? And write them down. And then after that, ask them to write the demographic information about those spiritual teachers, right? So often, right? And this actually was with myself when I first did this exercise with myself. The spiritual teachers looked a certain way, right? So that in my mind, unconsciously, the people that I saw that were the most spiritually enlightened, right, happened to be white and often were male. And so I think spaces like this, and I hope everyone that's watching gets like a feeling of that, is this whole idea of elevating melanated voices is to interrupt that pattern. And I know I've personally been gifted by all the spiritual teachers on this call. And I appreciate everybody who's tuned in to also to gain another perspective and to be part of this this thing of this Centers for Spiritual Living, Science of Mind, and to know that there are so many different ways and so many different manifestations and expressions of the one and of this teaching. And so I'm so glad we all got to be exposed to these particular voices today. So thank you all so much for being here. Reverend Dr. Raymond, would you be willing to pray us out today before we go?
I'm gonna do my best. It's gonna be 2 minutes. That Baptist part of me starts to come back out. So let's simply anchor into this thing called breath, recognizing that our bodies are intelligent enough to breathe. That we don't have to say, I'm saving a breath for a rainy day, or I'm trying to micromanage where the last breath went, but we simply breathe in this present moment called now. And as we surrender to this breath, ultimately what we are surrendering to is the realization that this is God breathing itself in, through, and as each and every one of us. And as I surrender into this awareness, I speak what I know. I recognize that that which God is a circle whose circumference is nowhere, whose center is everywhere. Therefore, exactly what I am, exactly what everyone on this call is, exactly what we are is the very I am, presence, living, moving, and having its beingness in totality as that which we are. And knowing this, I know that there is no part of us that is not God, quote unquote, ordained. The very skin color that we are, the very way that we show up as queer or gender rich, the very way that we show up in all of the ways that we show up. It is God demonstrating itself. It is the one life living itself. It is the one mind thinking itself into being. And knowing this, I know with such great gratitude that these minds that have joined in this call that I call my spiritual family, that we are here to do a great work, that everyone who is watching this, whenever you are watching it, that moment that is now is the now point of change. That in this moment of change, right where every single person is the moment to call forth, is the moment to walk into the awareness that it is a world that works for all. That the very diversity and inclusion and inclusivity and welcomingness and affirmation of our uniqueness is how this divine presence is showing itself. So I surrender this into the law, knowing that the law always says yes. The law said, it is saying, and will forever say yes, knowing that there is one mind, that mind is God. In this mind, a world that works for all exists, fully formed and fully functioning. Because it is, I surrender it. I allow God to be God, and so it is.
So it is.
So it is. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.